Good afternoon, everyone. All right. Those audience participate. My name is Wagner. I am a city councilman for the city of Kansas City, Missouri, representing the 1st District at large. And on behalf of the mayor and the city council, I want to welcome you to this event this afternoon here in our wonderful Union Station. We're always very pleased to have many visitors come to Kansas City and see many of our great landmarks, and this is one of our greatest. So thank you for being here today. I wanted to thank also the Northern Flyer Alliance for the opportunity to welcome all of you. The subject matter that you will be speaking about over the next several hours is important, although many people don't realize how important it is. But for a moment, I just wanted to let you know how important your conversation is to Kansas City, both historically and in the future. And just starting with this building here. Union Station began to be built in 1910 and was finished in 1914. It still stands, as I understand it, and maybe someone may correct me, as the second largest station of its type in the United States. And because of that, it plays a huge role not only in the past of Kansas City, but in its future. When this was reconstructed and refurbished after a tax was passed in the late 90s and reopened in 1999, it became somewhat of an anachronism in that stations like these usually don't get rebuilt, rehabbed, and reused in the way that you see today. But just as you were talking about the reuse, rehabilitation, and the future of rail in this country, you can look at this station to get a view of what has to happen. In our particular case, it was not only a region that came together of people, but also of businesses. There is a reason why our Greater Kansas City Chamber of Commerce is headquartered here, and the reason why you are sitting in its boardroom. And that is because the business community understands the importance of this facility, Union Station, but also the rail system in general. One other aspect that I always have to point out, because one of my majors in college was in history, is the importance of rail to Kansas City, which again plays into why you are here today. Kansas City, for many years, when it began in 1850, was a small town. In fact, it is said that when you walked through Kansas City, everyone was armed. It was that bad. You don't laugh about that, because it's true. It's true. Concealed carry and all that. Wild West. But leaders in Kansas City also realized the importance of rail. So much so that Kansas City competed against our neighbors, St. Joseph, Missouri, Leavenworth, Kansas, Atchison, Kansas, for the distinction of having the first crossing across the Missouri River. And in fact, it is sometimes said that we did a backroom deal in Washington, although I prefer to say really, really quickly, in order to make sure that it was Kansas City that received the rights to the very first bridge across the Missouri River, which was the Hannibal Bridge, built by the Hannibal and St. Joseph Railroad as a connection between Kansas City and the city of Chicago. That event created what is still, as I understand it, again, someone in here may correct me, as the second largest rail hub in the country. I've got 9, so I'm doing okay. All right. I like having fact checkers around too. Very helpful. But again, that is the importance that rail has had in Kansas City, not only for the movement of product, but of people. And it is that movement of people that you are here to talk about today, which is important to Kansas City as we reside in the central part of the nation, and it is an economic development tool as well. You know, I know there will be other speakers who will talk about the economic benefits of rail, and that's part of the reason why you're here today. It's interesting that sometimes the argument that you have heard, and I have heard, is that passenger rail is dead because it is economically not viable. But those who understand history understand that that is not the only thing that you look at. There would be no railroad across this country if all we decided upon was, can someone come in and just pay for it? The reality is that's next to impossible, but the benefits that come from such systems are what has moved this country and will continue to move this country. And I salute you for that discussion today. You know, in Kansas City, we have some small-scale things that we're trying to do, which again makes us very interested in this discussion. Some of you may be aware of a downtown streetcar that we are working on in Kansas City. You may also be aware of the activity in Jackson County, the county that we're in, on creating commuter rail lines. Although these are all small-scale in comparison to what you may be discussing today, what we recognize is rail systems, fixed rail systems, however they may be, wherever they are economic development tools that justify the cost that we look at in trying to sustain them and create them. And so I salute you for what you're trying to do today. Kansas City has relied upon the history of rail, and it will continue to rely on the history of rail now and into the future. And so with that, again, my thanks to you for visiting us today, and on behalf of the Mayor and the City Council of Kansas City and its citizens, welcome. And with that, I would like to introduce our introducer, Representative Gene Vickery. That's the technical term, of course, who represents the 6th District of Kansas. He's a business owner in Overland Park, Kansas, involved with the Midwest Tennessee Passenger Rail Commission, and chair of the growing Kansas Rail Caucus. If you would all help me, please welcome Representative